and welcome to an all-new episode of the Big Eyes Podcast. Man, we have a big one today, AD.
I know
we have a big one today.
It's crazy. It's great that we have this going on right now. I'm excited. I'm really hyped. I'm not even gonna hold you.
Hey, we are batting leadoff too. This is my hero. This is my hero week for the Lookout, and we are batting leadoff. And you know, when you're batting leadoff, you gotta make sure you get on base. You get on base. You set your team up to win. And today, we have a very, very special guest. I mean, this man's resume is absolutely insane. We're talking My Hero. We're talking Black Lagoon. We're talking Blue Exorcist, Demon Slayer. Like the list goes on. Like Mobile Suit Gundam Thunderbolt, a personal favorite.
Magi for me, like amazing. Evangelion.
Oh man! So today here we have the editor of all these great mangas, Mr. Mike Montesa. Mike, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you very much. I'm happy to be on the show.
Thank you so much. Do you brag? Do you brag about your, like, you have to brag about some of this stuff sometimes. When you have the moment, do you take the moment to brag about it?
I think I just drop the names of the titles that I work on and then just sort of smile and let it hang there, you know?
That's the humble brag.
That's the humble brag. You just go into the room.
Yeah. But of course that only works with people who know what they are. So, you know, some people don't know what the title is. They're like, oh, that's nice. So.
So how are you doing today? Like, how are you kind of doing in general? I know your days are probably much different now, due to current conditions in the world. You got the pandemic going on. So
yeah.
Have your days changed? Like just working through all this, your work days, your work schedules, and things like that. Like how you I know things are probably not as usual as they used to be.
Well, oh wow, it's been a very interesting time to say the least. Way back in March, when I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, and San Francisco was one of the first cities in the U.S. to basically lock itself down. And I remember that Monday we were in the office. It was around lunchtime, and the announcement came that we were locking everything down, and they told us that basically pack everything up and go home. And so we spent the next couple hours in the office just frantically trying to figure out what we were going to take with us to go home with. We kind of seen it coming. The week before, it was in the air, like we're going to end up having to leave. And so I had already started moving some files to like Google Drive and other places where I could get to them, and management was going around and saying, have you got a laptop you can use at home? So we knew it was coming. And then it happened, and we all moved, we all went home and basically just started to figure out how to do our jobs at home. Now, we had been able to work at home like once every couple of weeks before, but this was the first time basically the whole operation was moving to home.
Yeah.
And everybody was doing it. And after a few, working out the kinks in our workflow and connectivity with the internet and all of that, basically it turns out it's pretty much the same as being in the office, except you're not in the office. And we've discovered that we can do a lot of our day-to-day operations just as well at home. It's a little different, of course. We got to talk to each other, in like Zoom meetings or Google meetings and chats and so forth. But I've produced, let me look at my calendar here. Since we went home in March, I have handed off, something like 15, 16 different books.
Oh man, that's crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but actually it's been very much the same. The interesting thing has been like just learning to use a lot of remote stuff. A lot of the Adobe software stuff, like InDesign, Acrobat, and a lot of other things, has a surprising amount of ability to allow people to work in different places, but you can work together on the same document. So it's been pretty interesting learning about all that and figuring out how to do it.
Yeah, definitely. Do you think that do you think this is kind of going to be an everlasting thing where it's like you're going to start seeing a lot more publications and places do more remote stuff and not see I'm not going to say not the need for the office, but more, just working more remotely becomes more of a common thing?
I certainly think so. I feel that even after this pandemic is over, and the sooner the better, of course, but even after that has passed, I think a lot of companies are going to be doing this sort of thing. Well, it's permanent now. To what extent any given company will maintain it, that's up to them, but you're going to see a lot of changes in the way people work. Globally, I've even read articles, I've heard news stories that a lot of companies based in San Francisco are already moving their office and downsizing it, and people who previously were living in really expensive places are moving to somewhere cheaper just because they can work remotely now. They don't need to stick around.
So which one do you prefer? Like, do you prefer being in the office, or have you gotten accustomed to working remote?
Yeah, that's a great question. Which do I prefer? Gosh,
I'm sure it's easier to edit in pajamas. Like, is it a little more easy to edit in pajamas?
Well, it's easier to edit when it's quiet. In the office, I often have a lot of distractions, but at the same time, it's nice to be able to be around people to get instant input and feedback on things, and just to socialize, at lunchtime or, on a coffee break. So for me, I like a balance. I like being able to have the office as a place to congregate, but I also like working at home for the privacy and the ability to focus on what I'm doing.
Yeah, definitely.
So, it's definitely been a big change lately.
Definitely. So what was your first, I guess, moment with like anime and manga? Like, when was like your first introduction to this world that now you are, currently, like, you're like the puppet master now. You got so many things happening. What was the moment that kicked off this journey for you?
Oh, I'm going to date myself heavily here. I'm going to go all the way back to watching an old TV show called Star Blazers. The Japanese title of that is Uchusen Yamato. Star Blazers was an old anime that was brought over to the U.S. in the late 1900s, and it was shown on one of the local stations here. There was a TV personality guy who showed surprisingly, he showed a lot of Japanese import TV shows, live action stuff, Sentai stuff, and he brought over Star Blazers. I watched that. Really blew me away. It was completely different from American cartoons and animation. It had a continuing story. It had a lot of drama. Main characters died, which was unprecedented. American TV shows, they fire off tons of ordnance and no one ever gets killed. But in this show, it was like, that was the main character and he's dead and everybody's crying. Oh my God, it blew my mind.
No, it definitely has that effect. I think that is one of the drawing factors for a lot of fans of it gets negative. Like, that's like just the best way to say it. Like,
it gets real,
Yeah.
And that was when I was a little kid. Later on in high school, I watched Robotech.
Oh man, I remember that.
Yeah, and that one, it's a similar vein. And again, it had that ongoing storyline. There's a continuity there. Again, a lot of heavy drama, main characters getting killed. Loved it. And that kind of deepened my interest. And I had a friend who had lived in Japan with his family early on in his life. His father was in the Navy over there. And he said, "Hey, Mike, remember that old show Star Blazers?" "Yeah." That was Japanese?" "Really?" He said, "Here's the original show," and he had it on VHS. So again, dating myself. Watched that. I didn't understand a word of the Japanese, but I loved it. And then a few years later in college, and I started taking Japanese classes, and that was it.
I mean, that's cool that you study Japanese, because I was wondering, how does the especially working remote now, how does that language barrier sometimes does that become a challenge at any moment if you're working with or if you do work with the actual Japanese writers and some of the editors over there?
Well, actually, I think probably a lot of people think that we are talking to the Japanese mangaka and their editors directly, and actually we have very little contact with them at all.
Oh man.
With the exception of maybe meeting them at a convention. Viz Media speaks to our Japanese partners through our licensing departments, and it's basically our licensing department talking to their licensing department.
Okay.
Myself and our editorial department and the other editors, day to day, we don't talk to the Japanese editors or mangaka.
So how do you guys determine your translations? Because I know that's something that a lot of readers will have to pick it up on. And I personally see a lot of people say, they'll try to translate the Japanese of their, they'll have friends who live in Japan and read the manga in its natural state. But when you guys determine the translations, how do you guys determine that coming over for publication?
Well, it's the editor's job to smooth out the translations, to make them readable, and in whatever capacity is necessary, adapt them for the market. Everybody has their own personal approach to it. Personally, since I can speak and understand Japanese, I want to have something that's as faithful to the original as possible, but at the same time is a good reading experience for the English-speaking readers. And fortunately, I'm able to look at what the translators give me and sort of see where they are. If there's a straight line of a direct literal translation, yeah, it might be exactly literal, but it doesn't read very well. So maybe we can push it one way or the other just to try and make it flow better. It's an art. It's not, it's a science up to the point where, you're dealing with grammar and vocabulary and everything like that. But it is also an art to figure out how far you can push things without, bending them into something unrecognizable or getting too far away from the original meaning. It's definitely been a really interesting thing to get into.
Yeah, definitely. So are you, when watching anime, are you a subbed or dubbed guy?
Oh, definitely subbed.
You never watched the dub?
Back in the day, I used to get stuff that was taped off Japanese TV. It had no subtitles, no dub or anything like that, and I'd watch it. And after I had learned Japanese and I was living in Japan, it just got, listening to the original language was just the way it was. I never really thought about it that much. So nowadays the dub is always, not the dub, the sub is always my preference. Yeah,
I'm in the same boat. I enjoy seeing kind of the more literal translations of things. When I watch dubbed on Netflix or something, they have the subtitles the literal translations, and it's completely different than what the audio is, and it throws me off every time.
Yeah.
But no, I am a subbed guy around these parts.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate both. I can go either or, especially because of how the release schedules for a lot of things. You'll get the sub first, and then the dub will come later. So I'll do it like that. But there are some times where I'll just partake in the dub because that's my first time being introduced into something. My first time experiencing My Hero was actually with the dub first, and not the sub or the manga. So it's just when you get introduced to certain things, then you can go from there.
I also think it for me a lot depends on the quality. If it's a dub, it really depends on the quality of it. And one of the best dubs that I've seen was the dub for Black Lagoon.
Oh yeah, that one is really good.
Yeah, and I was actually a bit surprised. When I first watched it, I said, okay, I watched the the original first, and I said, okay, let's try the dub. I didn't have my expectations too high, but it was actually really quite good. I was pretty pleased with it. Is
it cool seeing the mangas you have worked on get turned into animes and like watching the anime adaptations, like to see the panels that you probably worked on and all these things like actually come to life. I know that feeling is different.
You know, since I'm just basically producing the English version of these things, I'm not really involved in the creation of the art of the story. I think I'm approaching the anime adaptations of the manga just to see what they did with it. I find it very interesting that a lot of times the anime that I see almost looks like the animators took the manga and basically used it as a storyboard and then produced that shot for shot sometimes. I think it's pretty interesting how faithful the animation can sometimes be to the manga in terms of the layout and the angles of the shots and the flow of a particular scene. It's like they opened up the manga and just used it as a storyboard. That, I think, has its pros and cons. Sometimes I feel that the animation is a little bit too slavishly devoted to the manga. In certain places, they probably could have taken more advantage of the medium that they were working with, but it seems to be a pretty common thing for the anime to, the Japanese produced anime to cleave very close to the manga source.
That's dope. I guess, it's been brought up already. I mean, we got to get into it. I think we called it on here like the new generation's Dragon Ball. And it's My Hero Academia. I don't legit remember. I mean, Dragon Ball, like we said, is probably the last time I've seen an anime kind of transcend this threshold of. I think there's like things that get kept in like this anime realm. There's some that just surpass it and become like these pop culture phenomenons.
Yeah.
And My Hero has definitely kind of reached that point where it is this big pop culture thing. When editing on it and when working on it, when first working on it, what was the moment in the story where you read and you were just like, yeah, this is the one? Like, is there a moment where you're just like reading it and you're just like, oh, this is, because for me, watching it, because I'm like AD, I watched it before I started reading it. Mm-hmm. And I like the show, but it was the moment between Deathloop and Muscular where I was just like, yo, this is might be something really special here. I think it was that fight where I was just like, I haven't popped that hard for an anime moment in a very long time. And to see that moment, I was just like, yo, this is something way different, way bigger than just a really good anime or like just an anime.
Wow, my experience of it is been pretty different. I'm coming to it as someone producing the English version of it, and I think we first released it starting in, I want to say 2015, something like that. And when we first started, it was just another new series that was happening in Shonen Jump. I don't remember at the time that we picked it up how well it was doing in Japan, but I think the Japanese parent company was saying, yeah, take this one, you'll like it. And we started releasing the English versions maybe a year later. And when it first was released in the manga, I'm talking about the manga. Obviously, the anime had not come out in the US yet, and sales were modest. Things were looking all right, but it wasn't blowing the roof off. And so then I think it was, when did the anime hit here? 2017, 2018,
2016 or 2017.
Yeah, something like that. It was, I think, after the anime came out, we started seeing the sales go up. They started to spike. And so for me, it's kind of like the frog in the pot, where they're just turning the water up, turning the heat up on the water slowly, right? So suddenly the water's boiling all around me. I'm going, whoa. The sales guy was coming over to me and he's saying, Mike, this thing is going crazy. I'm like, really? Whoa. I was just so absorbed in what I was doing. I wasn't really paying much attention to anything else. It really was driven home to me how big My Hero had become at Comic-Con in 2018. We had Horikoshi Sensei as a special guest at Comic-Con, and he was going to do the panel and the signings and all of that. And I have never seen so much enthusiasm as I saw when he was there. And I'm talking, that's even compared to something like Naruto, okay, when we had Kishimoto there as a guest. The response and the turnout for Horikoshi was insane. The booth was
probably well deserved.
You know, the booth was slammed, all the special con merch that we had for My Hero sold out, the panels were slammed. It was just crazy, absolutely crazy. And Horikoshi himself, he was stunned. You know, I don't know if you know about the daily life of the mangaka, but they live a pretty hermetic existence.
We read manga that try to like encapsulate that. So we kind of haven't, like, we don't actually know, like, seriously, but we have been like become aware of, you know, they have a very hard working lifestyle, to say the least.
You probably read Bakuman, or at least you've heard of it.
Yes.
I won't say that's 100% accurate, but it's, you know, a good representation of things.
Oh man.
And you know, yes, those manga, especially the ones on the weekly series, those guys and gals, they work themselves to the bone. I mean, quite literally, they'll roll out of bed and start drawing, and then turn off the light late at night after they just can't go anymore, you know? So Horikoshi himself was working on whatever chapter he was working on in the hotel at Comic-Con.
Wow.
You know,
that's crazy.
There's just no break. So I have a lot of respect for these manga artists and their editors and everybody who's involved with them, because it's definitely a hard life. But all that said, you know, again, Horikoshi being at Comic-Con and seeing that huge response and all that enthusiasm and the love for what he had produced really, I think, gave him a big boost. And he went away really happy. But I've gotten way away from the original answer.
Oh no, it's fine.
Yeah, 2018 was when I realized it was huge.
Yeah, that's so is it hard for you to kind of read some mangas and seeing it from a fan point of view? Just because you work on them so much, you're surrounded by it, but do you ever kind of take a chance to like sit back and look at not even just your work, but any other work, and just be like, oh, like, you know, and really be able to sit and enjoy it as a fan?
You know, that's a really interesting question. I mean, I've been interested and involved with manga and anime in one way or another most of my life. I obviously have my own favorites as a fan.
Oh, I need to know the Mount Rushmore. What's the
top five?
Mount Rushmore.
Top five?
Yeah.
Oh, this is always hard. So I'm just going to name a bunch of them, but I won't put them in any order. But these are my top five. First one that comes to mind is Slam Dunk.
I love it. I love it already.
Slam Dunk is so good. And I can't say I'm much of a basketball fan, but I love Slam Dunk. So well done, so well written, so much character. The pacing is unbelievable. I'm just thinking about the very last volume and the final moments of that game they were playing. I still get my hair still stands up. It's that good.
No, it is beautiful. It is beautiful, and I think that the cultural impact that it had is it's one of the biggest things. Rest in peace to the great Kobe Bryant. And Kobe, we did an episode on here talking about Slam Dunk and and how much, like, how that manga really changed how, like, basketball was viewed as. Mm-hmm. You know, it became more of an entertainment aspect than just sport. And you know,
I was just thinking, I was in Japan in the early and mid 90s when Slam Dunk was originally running. And at that time, I remember that basketball in Japan was becoming really big. I think the NBA had just figured it out and started doing a lot of marketing over there. But it wasn't until much later when I started working on Slam Dunk that I realized just how much of an impact Slam Dunk had in Japan in terms of popularizing basketball in that country. And I've met so many Japanese people who, you know, they may not be basketball fans, but they absolutely love Slam Dunk. I mean, it was just really a widespread like cultural phenomenon over there at the time.
Definitely. All right, so we got Slam Dunk. Slam Dunk's one of them.
Slam Dunk. I'm gonna say Monster.
Man.
Naoki Urasawa's Monster. If you know that one.
I've heard of it, but
I have not
hear
read
great
that
things.
yet.
Monster is quality. If HBO wants to make a series of a manga, Monster would be a fantastic candidate for it. It's I'd say it's a thriller. It's a suspense thriller. It's set in Germany, and the main character is a Japanese doctor, and he's trying to solve a very complicated and deep mystery. I'll leave it to you and your readers to go look that one up. But Monster is really an excellent manga, and it's definitely one of my favorites.
Definitely. You brought up, quick turn here. You brought up adaptions. Are you a fan of live adaptions? I mean, Promised Neverland is getting one from Amazon. They're turning that into a TV series, and so it's, are you a fan of like anime live adaptions, or have any type of like, do you have any type of quarrel with them? Like, what are your thoughts on like the live adaptions of things?
I can't say I have like a quarrel with anything, because I'm always interested to see what the producers do with it. Any TV or film producer that is going to make an adaptation of a Japanese manga or anime property is facing tremendous challenges going in. And it's always a question of how well did they do? Will they, what choices will they make? How will they present things? What are they going to really deviate from? I feel like I'm kind of a realist. I know that you can't make a live adaptation of a manga shot for shot. It just won't work. You've got time, you've got budget considerations, all kinds of different things. So it's always a question of, can you make a good adaptation which is faithful to the original, that
still captures the essence?
Exactly. It has to capture the essence. It has to hit the right beats. It has to give the fans what they want give the fans what they want, and yet also manage to speak to a larger audience that's going to watch that thing.
Yeah.
It's a very difficult process, and I don't really know if I've seen anything that actually blows it out of the water yet, but there's time.
Yeah, there definitely is.
That's very true.
I think now is going to be a little different, especially because I feel anime is now looked at as, I think anime or manga is more respected now as a true kind of form of like, it's not just a Japanese thing anymore. Yeah. Like, Americans have really bought into it, so now they're putting a lot more energy, time, and thought into it. Yeah. I think especially because a lot of anime adaptations, or the ones that do get adapted, are kind of these big shonens, that people want to do, which I feel, because of how outside the box shonen can be sometimes, and how just over the top it can be, it makes it very hard. I do like it though when they try to do other things. Like, I think like the Promised Neverland, for instance, it could be something done very well, just because it's not kind of like My Hero where you got all these like powers happening or whatnot. It's a story a little bit more grounded a bit. Yeah. So it could definitely be something more on the realm of, Stranger Things and things of that realm that have been done before. Mm-hmm. I think that if someone tried to do a My Hero live adaptation, it would be, I think they would face so much more challenges, because they have all these special effects that probably have to go into it, and all these other things that kind of have that come with doing a big shonen like My Hero.
Yeah. Something I just thought of, you're talking about adaptations of manga and so forth. In Japan, quite a large number of primetime TV dramas and so forth are adaptations of manga, and it's usually not sci-fi or fantasy manga. It's more like shoujo type or slice of life type manga. If you're watching some romantic drama on TV in Japan, there's a high probability it's adapted from a manga. So the Japanese are already doing it to some extent, but I haven't really seen them do a lot of the more like shonen type stuff. probably just because of like budget limitations and whatnot.
Definitely. I know that United States Smash is. I know that's going to cost a lot of money to put on the screen.
Yeah.
All right, so we have Slam Dunk, we have Monster. What is number 3 in the, on the list, the unofficial official list?
I gotta say Akira.
Oh,
I gotta say Akira. I can't leave that off. It's extremely influential, not just for me, but for a lot of people. I came to that one like many did through the movie first, before I read the manga. Yeah, that one I have the full set on my shelf, and I go over that every once in a while. Definitely a very influential manga for me.
Yeah, I still remember the first time I watched the movie, and I was so like drawn in and locked in. Like I was, this is not even just anime I've ever seen or anime movie, any of that. This is one of the best things I have ever watched like in my life. It's like you said, this changed the game. Like Akira really is. You can really pinpoint the moment where manga and all like anime took this shift. And I think that's kind of like the pinpoint right there of just like Akira just completely changed the culture and completely changed how people even just view this art form in general, and what could be done with it.
Absolutely. I think also, it's one of those movies, one of those properties that has also influenced a lot of influential people in the media world. How many producers and directors down in Hollywood have seen that and have, had that, influence what they were thinking about and what they were doing, right? Just a very important part of the whole manga and anime picture, yeah. So those are my top 3. But you said 5, so the other 2 for me, they're kind of a rotating thing. So they're more like current favorites. I'll tell you, one of them is Golden Kamui.
Oh man, I was just watching some of that last night.
I work on that one, and of the current titles that I work on, that's probably my favorite. It's just really amazing. I love it to death. The story is extremely interesting. The setting is really interesting. The characters are great. Plot really keeps moving along. There's always lots of twists and turns. There's stuff that you want to look away from, but you can't. Watch a train wreck, Yeah, Golden Kamui is just amazing. I love it.
How do you feel about some of the food that they cook in Golden Kamui?
It's really, really interesting. You think about it and you go like, oh, wow, they're eating seal eyeballs. Gross. But then again, wait a minute. We're talking about, people who live out in the wilderness. They're not going to the supermarket to get anything. They've got to survive.
Yeah.
So they're doing what they need to do. And it's just fascinating because there's one of the great things. Okay, you're talking about food in Golden Kamui. The main character, Sugimoto, he's Japanese, and he has a little tin of miso. You know what miso paste is? The brown soybean paste?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So he gets that out occasionally and he puts it in his soup. And the little Ainu girl, Asurpa, she looks at him and she laughs and she goes, "That looks like poop. You're eating poop." And he looks at her and goes, "Well, you're eating eyeballs. That's gross." And so right there, it's just your perception of food, right?
Yep.
To the girl, she thinks he's eating poo. And to him, he looks at her eating eyeballs and he thinks that's gross. So, you think it's delicious, somebody else thinks it's gross, but it's all based on your perspective.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things about it. They show the different ways, not different ways, but there are different ways. They have the bear, they have like the different things that, you can cook out of these different meals, like the different body parts of all of these animals. And it's just like, they explained also to like the history of what they do with the Ainu culture, sometimes how they prepare this stuff. And it's like, oh man, it's a lot more than just food. It's a cultural thing.
Yeah, it's fascinating. The creator of that one, Satoru Noda, I've not met him and I don't know much about him, but I'm pretty sure he lives in Hokkaido. And the depth of the knowledge that he presents in the story, it's just really fascinating. It's great because the subject matter is not something a lot of people are familiar with. The setting has echoes of the American Old West, but it's kind of, at an angle to it because it's not the late 19th century, it's the early 20th century, so there's more technology involved there. There's interesting historical things going on with like Russia and Japan, and it's just fascinating. I love it.
Yeah, same here.
And then I think number 5 on my list and the other one in sort of my rotating current spot, I'd say it's Gundam Thunderbolt.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Talk to me, Chief.
Thunderbolt.
He's Gundam. He's all Gundam.
I hear the excitement of a fan in your voice. That's great. I love it. Thunderbolt. When I pitched it to the editorial group a few years ago, I said, this is sort of like, it's the same way that Battlestar Galactica was redone. It had a really, not that Gundam ever really didn't have a gritty edge, especially if you go back to the original series. But Thunderbolt, I felt, really brought things forward in terms of its tone and the feel. It is set in the original Gundam setting. It's not one of the spin-off settings. So it takes place kind of concurrently, at least at the beginning of the series, it takes place at the same time that the original Gundam story was happening, the Universal Century stuff. And it really runs its characters through the ringer.
It really does. I think when you're talking about that gritty edge, and that's what really has drawn me to, what drew me to Thunderbolt, because I'm a huge Gundam fan in general. And one thing I love about Gundam is you got these big robots that are doing these amazing and cool things, and it's really colorful. And, just the whole mecha genre is something that I truly love. But when reading Thunderbolt, it was the first time, but it's like, I think that was when I was just like, yo, these are like actual humans in these bots. And I'm like, these are actual humans with actual issues and who have this, who know that that possibly die. Like, it really tapped into the emotion of who is really piloting these, these Gundam, and who are piloting these bots. And that's what really what I love so much about Thunderbolt. Also, that is one of the best. I put Thunderbolt in terms of how it's drawn and how it looks. I put that up there with like Unicorn. How beautiful it looks. But no, the fact that you just tap in really into the emotion of who is really piloting these bots, and the true fear that they have just being inside of it. Is one of my favorite things about Thunderbolt.
I like that you get a good look at the characters on both sides, the Federation characters and the Zeon characters, and you find things about them that you like, and you find things about them that you dislike. And one of the interesting things I think about that is, why are they fighting? They really don't know why they're fighting. There is no sides, really, what it feels like. Exactly. And when they get into the big battle scenes and everything, of course, those are really flashy, and that's your big FX moments and all of that. But at the same time, it's very emotional, and it's really personal, and it's very painful. Almost all the characters in Thunderbolt are really suffering, and it's a war story, and ultimately, war you know, it's just sort of showing you how it just damages and destroys everything.
Definitely.
When I'm on volume 15 now, I think, and it's really gotten to a point where myself and the guy who our copy editor who works on that, we sometimes talk about it, and you know, I'll say to him, "Hey man, did you see that big splash page there?" And he'll just go, "Yeah," and then we don't even need to say anything. It was like, that was just unbelievable. You know? I can't believe they did that.
Yeah, I love it. I just love it so much. You know, Thunderbolt, one of my favorite parts is the first time that Io and Daryl speak.
Yeah.
And he makes a joke about his legs. And he said, "Please don't joke about my legs." I think that moment right there really lets you know the type of story you're into, because the fact that, you know, he immediately takes a jab at him having no legs. I was like, oh, this is kind of dark. I was like, this is gonna get very dark. It does. You know, it taps into, like I said, it taps into that emotion. You know, what war really, no, not what it feels like, but like when sides are fighting, and these are just soldiers taking orders, but they really don't know why they're out there. They really don't know why they're still fighting. But you know, at the end of the day, they put their duty above. Kind of like their emotions at the time. Yeah. Of like, listen, at the end of the day, I'm still a fighter, and I still have to fight, and I still have to win for my side.
And those two characters, Io and Daryl, you know, the main characters, they are both the best pilots on either side, and at this point in the game, they really don't want anything else than to go up against each other. You know, that's all they want to do. And they've kind of, at first, they were both sort of denying that. But now, especially Daryl, he's more like, I've admitted it. All I want to do is go out there and kill that guy, and all you people need to get out of my way. You know, so it's just really tense. It's always intense. There's always a lot of twists and turns, and the Otagaki, the artist, the creator of that, even with his physical impairment, he's had bad tendonitis in one of his hands. He's still managing to draw a really highly detailed, very well laid out, extremely kinetic story. I just love it.
Definitely. And like, so, you know, you're the editor, and you've overseen a lot of different mangas, you know, all with different tones and different, you know, just different tones, different themes, and all that. How does your mindset, in a sense, change when you're working on, you know, say something like a Demon Slayer, but then you have to go to something like No Gun Life, which I think are two completely like, you know, they're opposite in tone and feel and setting. So how does your mindset kind of, you know, how do you just shift? Like, okay, like when you're reading the story, like how do you start shifting and being like, okay, like it looks better in this direction, or, you know, how does that affect you?
Well, you know, since I'm simply working with the English dialogue, I guess I try to hear the characters' voices in my head. You know, like, okay, who would I cast as this character if there was a movie, right? Wow. What does their voice sound like? And you're right, there are different tones. Like you just mentioned No Gun's Life, that's sort of a noir cyberpunk story, so that has a different voicing and a different sort of OST in my head than, let's say, My Hero Academia or something else, you know. So yeah, I'm trying to, you know, look at like the translation and the script and the dialogue and think about how those characters sound and whether or not the dialogue is reflecting that. Again, trying to pay attention to, you know, maintaining the integrity of it and keeping it close to the original Japanese and the artist's intent and the character's own actual voice. So yeah, I guess I shift around in terms of how I hear. I guess that's what it is. I'm hearing the manga. I'm hearing the soundtrack for it in my head as I'm reading through these things.
Wow, I never really thought about that, like while you're editing on it and trying to, in a sense, cast while you're reading.
Sort of, yeah. I guess you just kind of fall into that naturally because you're reading it, so the character has a voice and it's got to sound like something. So maybe I have a particular actor's voice who I feel might be good for that. Whether or not anybody would agree with me, it doesn't matter because that's just my.
You ever find yourself just like putting on music just to like fit the mood or like
I do.
I
do. Definitely.
Oh
I do.
Man.
I was listening to, believe it or not, when I was editing a couple volumes of Thunderbolt, I was listening to some Evangelion.
Oh man,
that really worked well. I was listening to what was I listening to when I was listening to when I was working on No Gun's Life? I put on like the Blade Runner soundtrack.
Do you like lean more towards like do you lean when you're putting on music, do you lean more towards actual music that's like what it sounds like, or do you lean more towards like movie soundtracks or like anime soundtracks that are a little bit more fitting towards what you're working on?
I think I go for the movie soundtracks because there's no lyrics, and I can't concentrate if there's lyrics.
Okay.
I just need instrumental stuff that works a bit better for me. Not always, but most of the time. I mean, honestly, probably 80% of the time, I'm actually listening to like jazz.
South Isle, the free jazz.
Because there's no lyrics, so I can concentrate on the text.
Definitely. All right, we got a couple curveball questions for you.
All right,
here's some fun ones. If you had to pick two main characters against each other, who would you, of the mangas that you worked on, two main characters, a one-on-one battle, who would you want? Or who's your dream matchup?
Two main characters. Oh boy. This is going to be kind of ridiculous. I like Sugimoto and Golden Kamuy.
Okay. Oh man.
Because he's unstoppable.
Man is immortal.
He's a nice guy, but don't make him mad. Yeah, and the other one, gosh, it's kind of unfair to put this guy up against Sugimoto, but I'm thinking of Koichi in My Hero Academia Vigilantes.
Oh man,
Koichi is really one of my favorite characters.
Is he?
Yeah, I like him a lot.
When I first started reading Vigilantes, it took me a second to warm up to him, and slowly yet surely it has happened. At first, I was just like, I was leaning on him. I was like, I don't know yet. I don't know if I want to go 2 feet in on this character. Really dabble in a couple others.
Yeah.
I like him because he's clueless.
He's completely clueless.
That's why I like
Have you ever seen? There's a meme that I love where there's like a dog sitting at a computer and it says, "I have no idea what I'm doing." That's what I feel like he is when he's out in the battlefield or when he's just doing anything. But somehow, some way, it works out for him. Like he really has.
Oh man, I wouldn't mind seeing Sugimoto against Knuckle Duster, to be honest.
Oh yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, Knuckle Duster's cool. I like him a lot. For some reason, man. Knuckle Duster reminds me of who is that character in Sin City that Mickey Rourke played?
I don't
remember the character's name, but he was the main character in Sin City. And Knuckle Duster reminds me a lot of that guy. Marv, that's it. Yeah,
Marv.
Knuckle Duster kind of reminds me of Marv.
Man, that would be another fun battle. I would like to see Yusuke and Tanjiro.
Okay. Bro, no, that is a murder.
I would have done it. No, man,
that's a murder scene. No, the kid is only like 14.
Final form Tanjiro when he masters like all the breathing techniques at the end. And Demon Yusuke, let's see what I just want to see I want to see if Tanjiro is really dedicated to Demon Slayer life. If he can slay Demon Yusuke,
That would be interesting to see.
I just want to see it. Listen, if he's a demon, you gotta play the demons, right? Listen, there is a spirit detective. We're gonna see really dedicated to the job.
Let's get some Jump Force DLC and put Tanjiro in, and we can make that happen.
Right.
We need it. Yeah, if you can live. All right. One more. We get out of here. We can live in any of the universes that you have created. Which one would you want to live in?
Well, I didn't create any of them.
Or not created, but have worked on. I say, if you want to live in any universe that you have worked on.
That I've worked on. Well, Gundam Thunderbolt's too terrible. No.
That's a wasteland, man.
Yeah. What would be nice? Maybe Blue Exorcist.
Ooh.
Yeah,
that
wouldn't be bad. That wouldn't be bad.
That looks like fun. Blue Exorcist is like Tokyo with a great big magic city in the middle of it. Yeah, maybe that would be good. I think that would be kind of fun.
That seems fun.
You would just have to worry about probably some demons.
Yeah.
That's about it.
You ever thought about what your quirk would be if you ever had a quirk?
Oh God, my quirk. My quirk would probably be being extremely well organized. So I could get all my work done.
Oh man.
Well, Mr. Montesa, thank you so much for just giving us your time. Allowing us to talk to you about something I feel that we're all fans of and just love. And I appreciate you just coming in, man, just having fun with us. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. It's been great. I love talking to fans, Most of the time my face is buried in the computer screen. And when I talk to fans at cons, that's always where I'm sort of reminded that's where the rubber hits the road. It's great to see that enthusiasm. Again, it just reminds me that what I'm doing is giving people some enjoyment and happiness, and we could all use more of that right now.
Definitely. And I appreciate just how hard you guys still are continuing to work to give us all this, to allow us to have these little joys in life, man. These joys that make the day seem much easier. Do you have any words of wisdom for anyone that is pursuing either a career in the manga field, or an artist or writer, someone who wants to be someone who wants to be the next Mike Montesa,
Oh God, I'm sorry.
Any words of wisdom?
I think if you're pursuing a career in a creative career, whether it's in publishing or some other art form, really the best advice is to do it as much as you can in whatever capacity you can. If you're a writer, write. Write for your own blog, write for somebody else's website. Just keep on doing it, and the more you do it and the more people you work with, then that's when the opportunities start to come your way. You never know when they're going to come or where they're going to come from, but by engaging in what you love, then you just create more chances to do it. So if you're a writer, keep on writing. If you're a musician, keep on playing. If you're an artist, keep on drawing or painting. In whatever medium it is that you work with, just keep doing it. And don't do it because you think you're going to get rich. Do it because you love it. Then, you may not ever get rich. Chances are you won't, but at least you will be happy with what it is that you do.
Wow. That was beautiful. That's the way to sign off, man. But once again, Mr. Montesa, thank you again so much for joining us and talking with us about manga today.
Oh, thank you guys. I mean, and if you guys want to do this again, I'm open to it.
Definitely.
Oh, definitely.
fans that are listening to this, if you want to continue to listen to all the great things you're doing, because remember, it is My Hero Week. Make sure that you listen and subscribe on the Lookout RNC. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram, where we got, we have a fun week planned. We have a lot of things. Like I said in the beginning of this, we're batting lead off. So this is how we're starting off the week. So I want you to know that we got a fun week for you guys, because we started, we hit a lead off home run. So once again, thank you guys so much for listening. Make sure you follow the page, Lookout RNC. AD, what's our sign off, man?
Please read more manga, watch more anime, drink more water, and take care.
Take care. Peace.
Thanks a lot, guys.